The flashlight beam cut through the mist like a blade, and then came the voice. "Step away from the tent." "Sir." Hands where I can see them. Suddenly, red and blue lights exploded across the dark waters of my own lake. I froze. To sheriff. Deputies, guns half-drawn, boots crunching on the gravel, stared at me like I was an armed fugitive. I blinked in disbelief. "This is private property," I said slowly, heart pounding. "I own this land." The older cop radioed something. "In," while the younger one looked uneasy. Then he said words I couldn't believe. "Sir, the HOA reported a suspicious squatter on this lake." "We've had complaints." I laughed, cold and low. Not out of humor, out of shock. Complaints. I'd bought this 67-acre ranch with cash 6 months ago. My name was on every deed, every boundary marker, every dusty trail around that lake. But right now, none of that seemed to matter. What mattered was that 2 armed men were staring at me like I didn't belong. I raised my hands, not because I was guilty, but because I wasn't stupid. "I've got my ID in the truck," I said. Calmly. "Registration's there too. I can prove ownership." The older cop kept his hand near his belt but nodded toward my truck. I took slow, deliberate steps toward it, flipped open the glove box and handed them the folder. Inside, the deed, the survey map, my name stamped on every document. They huddled. Under the flashlight, flipping pages. The silence was thick. Finally, the younger one looked up and muttered, "This. This says you own everything east of County Line Road, including the lake." "Exactly," I said. "So now you tell me, why did the HOA call the cops on me for camping on my own damn property?" He didn't answer. But the older deputy muttered something under his breath, something about wrong address and miscommunication. Total BS. I wasn't a fool, and neither were they. Something else was going on. I was about to find out exactly what the cops left without. An apology, just a warning to check in with the HOA in the morning, as if the HOA had authority here. I watched their taillights vanish through the trees, and I stood there in the dark, alone except I wasn't. Because as soon as the silence returned, I heard it, a twig snap, then another. I wasn't alone. On my land, I spun toward the sound, adrenaline spiking. My flashlight beam swept across the brush and then I saw it, a shadow. Human, darting behind an old sycamore near the lake. I didn't shout, didn't chase. I walked back to my truck, grabbed my sidearm, legal, licensed, always within reach and headed into the trees. Who the hell was on my land? The ground was damp, the moon low. Moved fast, silent. I followed the trail of footprints someone had been here recently, cigarette butts on the ground. Soda can half crushed, folding lawn chair, abandoned. I followed the tracks another 30 feet and froze. There, hidden behind a brush wall, was something that made my blood run cold. A full dock, floating wooden dock with a cooler, a radio, even a tackle box. Someone had built it. On my lake, and it wasn't me. This wasn't just trespassing. This was long-term use, familiar use. Someone had been fishing, partying, lounging like they owned the place. And when I shined my light on the tackle box, my stomach turned. A monogrammed emblem on the lid. Property of Oak Ridge HOA. I stood there, stunned. The same HOA that had just called the cops on me, the one claiming I was the trespasser, they'd been using my lake? Probably for months, maybe years. And now that I'd finally come to camp, they were trying to scare me off. It hit me like a freight train. They didn't think I'd ever show up. I spent the rest of the night by the fire. Wide awake, eyes scanning the tree line. It's sunrise. I walked the entire lake perimeter. What I found made my jaw clench. There were multiple paths leading from the adjacent neighborhood directly to my lake. Cleared trails, stepping stones, even ropes tied to trees for swinging into the water. I took photos of everything. My ranch, my lake turned into their secret playground. This wasn't accidental. It was theft. Organized. Hidden. And now exposed. By 9 a.m., I pulled into the Oak Ridge subdivision. Perfect lawns, fancy mailboxes, HOA signs at every entrance. I parked right in front of the clubhouse. Inside, an older man with slick hair and a fake smile looked up from behind the counter. "Can I help you?" he asked. I dropped the folder. On his desk, "I'm the guy you called the cops on last night." His smile faltered. "Oh well, it must have been a misunderstanding." "Save it," I snapped. "You've been using my lake. I have evidence. Docks, fishing gear, trails. You're trespassing. That ends today." His jaw tightened. "Sir, that land has been accessed by Oak Ridge residents for years," you assumed. "It was public." "You assumed wrong," I said. "I bought it 6 months ago. The signs went up. Gates were posted. You ignored them. Now, you either meet with your board or I press charges." He tried to deflect, but I was done talking. I gave him 24 hours to respond. Then I walked out, my phone already recording, heart racing. What I didn't know then was that the HOA wasn't just trespassing, they were lying, and they'd done it before. To someone else, I barely made it to the ranch gate when my phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered, already on edge. A woman's voice came through, tense, quiet. "You need to be careful. You just stirred up something bad." I stopped walking. "Who is this?" "We met at the HOA barbecue 2 months ago. My name's Ellie. I live in lot 19. I saw your truck at the clubhouse. I know what they did to Yubi, 'cause they did it to my brother too." My grip tightened on the phone. "Your brother? He used to fish at that lake, before you bought it, before he knew it was private. When he found out and started asking questions, weird stuff started happening. Fines, threats. Then one day he was gone. Moved out in the middle of the night. Said he was scared. Never talked about it again." My chest tightened. I looked. Over the fields toward the lake, once peaceful, now tainted. "Why are you telling me this?" Ellie's voice cracked. "'Cause I'm sick of them acting like kings. The HOA runs everything out, here back door, deals, fake permits, threats if you don't comply. I've lived here 6 years. You're the first person who's ever stood up to them. They're scared of you. They'll come after you too." She hung up. I stood there, phone buzzing in my hand, wind rustling the dry grass around me. This wasn't just trespassing anymore. This was control, fear, a decades-old abuse of power. I looked at my land, my lake hand. I made a decision. They wanted to play dirty. It's fine. But I'd play smarter. I set up motion cameras around the lake, 4 of them hidden in brush, tied to a cellular upload system. Any movement, I'd get an alert. I didn't care if it was kids or adults. If they stepped foot on my land again, I'd have proof. Then I went further. I mapped every trail that connected Oak Ridge to the lake. I flagged them. I left clear notices trespassers will be prosecuted. Not handwritten, but printed, sealed, and GPS marked for evidence. I installed 2 locks on the main access road, even though I knew they'd try the back paths first, by noon the next day. I got a call from the HOA board. The same slick-haired man, now trying to sound professional. "Mr. Rayner, the board would like to meet and resolve this amicably. We had no idea the land had changed hands." I let the silence stretch. "You knew. You just didn't care. You thought I'd never show up. Now I have, and it's over." He chuckled nervously. "Well, let's not escalate things legally. No one wants that." "You have 24 hours, I repeated. "If I see one more person on that lake, I go to the county sheriff. I bring the photos, the maps, the signed reports, and I sue for damages." He hung up. That night I got my first camera alert, 11:43 p.m. Someone was back. I opened the live feed. 2 flashlights. A man and a teenager. They were sneaking along the eastern trail, laughing quietly. The older man held a fishing pole. They stepped right onto the dock, my dock like it was theirs. I didn't call the cops. Not yet. I drove out there myself, killed the engine, and walked silently through the trees. When I stepped out of the shadows and turned on my flashlight, the man jumped so high he nearly dropped the pole. "Evening," I said coldly. "Out for a stroll?" he fumbled. "We just thought this was still public access. It's not. Hasn't been for 6 months, which means you're trespassing. I've got your face on camera. You've got 30 seconds to leave, or I call the sheriff." The kid's eyes widened. The man muttered a curse and grabbed the boy's arm. "Let's go." I followed them all the way back to the tree line, then took more photos of the trail they'd used. The next morning, I posted those photos online with a simple caption, "When the HOA trespasses on your land and calls you the criminal." It went viral. Within hours, local Facebook groups exploded with arguments. Half the Oak Ridge neighborhood was furious at the HOA. Messages poured in. People asking for copies of the footage. Several claimed they, too, had been warned, fined, or threatened for pushing back. Then, Ellie messaged again. They're meeting in secret. Tonight, clubhouse, 10 p.m., they're planning something. I overheard my neighbor talking about it. You need to be careful. I parked across the street in the dark, left my truck off, and approached on foot. Through a cracked window, I saw them 6 board members, lights low, voices urgent. I recorded everything. They weren't just talking about me. They were planning to buy time, destroy evidence. As one of them said, if he presses charges, we say it's a misunderstanding. If he posts anything else online, we threaten defamation. Shut down worse than him before. That was it. Game on. I sent the footage to a property attorney I knew in Dallas. Then I walked into the clubhouse the next day with a CSA and DSLS letter in one hand and a flash drive in the other. You have 12 hours to sign this, admit liability, and agree to stay off my land permanently. If not, this flash drive goes to the local news, the sheriff, and every HOA member in your neighborhood. They laughed at first until I played the recording. Then they turned pale, but I wasn't done. I asked one question. How many others? Have you threatened? How many people were forced to leave? How many properties have you claimed access to that never belonged to you? They didn't answer. But the truth was coming, and next, I was going to expose everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, because I was ready. I sat at the table with the flash drive in one hand and a list of names in the other. People like Ellie, her brother. Neighbors who had sent private messages after I posted the footage. People silenced, fined, or chased out for challenging the same HOA that now pretended I was the problem. They were no longer alone. I was going to drag every dirty secret of Oak Ridge into the daylight, but I wouldn't do it alone. At 7:45 a.m., I stepped into the county records office. I requested every plat map, easement claim, and historical land use document tied to the lake and the surrounding properties. Then I drove straight to a local attorney I'd hired the week before. He was young, sharp, and hated HOAs. His eyes lit up as I dropped the evidence on his desk. "They've been accessing your property for over a year?" he asked. "More like a decade," I said. "And it gets worse. They're threatening people. I've got it all recorded." He leaned back in his chair. "Then let's ruin them." By noon, we had a formal trespassing complaint filed with the county. Cease and desist notices went to every HOA board member. But that was just paperwork. What I did next was nuclear. I launched a website. One simple name, stopoakridgehoa.com, and on that site, everything. The videos, the photos, the audio from the secret meeting, GPS trail maps, drone footage of the docks, the rope swings, the HOA's unauthorized structures on my land. I even embedded a timeline of events starting with the night they called the cops on me, trying to frame the owner of the land as a squatter. Then I clicked publish. Within 3 hours, the site had over 18,000 views. By sunset, it had gone viral across 3 counties. The comment section exploded. Local Facebook groups tore into the HOA. News stations started calling. One journalist asked to meet that same day, invited them to the ranch. We stood by the lake as I showed her the dock. The private trails, the posted signs that were ignored. She was stunned. "You're telling me the HOA built this dock on land they didn't even own?" "No," I said. "I'm telling you, they built it on my land, then called the cops when I tried to sit on it." The segment aired that night. It hit hard. That's when the retaliation began. The next morning, my mailbox was smashed. Then I noticed tire marks in the dirt near my trailer, too deep, too fresh. Someone had driven onto my property in the night. The eastern gate had been cut with bolt cutters. But the cameras caught it all. 3 men, hoods up, flashlights. One of them sprayed something on the signs. The other 2 pulled ropes from the dock, tried to loosen it. They didn't realize the cameras had night vision. I sent the footage to the sheriff. 2 hours later, deputies showed up at 3 homes in Oak Ridge. Trespassing, vandalism, tampering with private property. That's when the dominoes really started to fall. More. Neighbors reached out this time with documents. Old HOA letters. Photos of public paths that led into areas the HOA didn't own. One elderly man showed me a $2,200 fine. He paid for building a shed that was technically on his own land, except the HOA claimed it belonged to them. It was the same story over and over again. Intimidation, manipulation, silence. Ellie called again. "You started something," she said. "People are furious. There's going to be a community meeting." "Good," I said. "That's exactly what I want." "No," she said quietly. "You don't understand. They're not calling it to apologize. They're calling it to fight back. You need to be ready." So I got ready. I set up a projector right on the edge of the lake. Invited news crews, invited neighbors. I parked my truck near the dock, unfurled a massive banner. "This is my land. Here's what your HOA did to it." And as the sun went down, people showed up. Some came curious, some came angry. But when the footage played on that screen of board members scheming, of secret meetings, of trespassers caught red-handed, the silence was absolute. Then I stepped forward. I didn't raise my voice, didn't point fingers. I just said the truth. This land is mine. I posted signs. I followed the law. They broke it. Then they tried to frame me for defending what I owned. You deserve to know who's been lying to you. Then the mic passed. Ellie spoke. Then 2 others. Then 5 more. By the end of the night, the crowd had tripled in size, and the vote was called. An emergency petition to dissolve the Oak Ridge HOA. It passed with 73% in favor. But the war wasn't over. The board refused to step down. They claimed the vote was illegal. They hired a lawyer. And that night, someone threw a rock through the window of my trailer. I didn't blink. I installed brighter lights, higher fences. I doubled the cameras. They wanted a fight, and I'd give them one. Not with fists, with facts, with law, and with every truth they thought they had buried for good. At 3:14 a.m., I watched the playback again. The rock sailed through the window like it belonged there, like whoever threw it had done it before. The figure didn't run. He walked, calm, confident, hoodie, gloves, no plates on the car. But I still got a glimpse of his face under the porch cam. That's all I needed. I sent the still frame to the sheriff's office, and then I did something I'd been holding back. I sent it to every HOA board member with one sentence. "I see you." That morning, the phone rang. "Unknown number, Mr. Rayner," a voice said. It was clipped, polite, rehearsed. "This is Attorney Mitchell Lane. I'm now representing the Oak Ridge Homeowners Association. I'd like to discuss your website. My clients believe you violated several civil statutes, including defamation. Interference with contract. Your clients broke the law. I posted evidence. That's not for you to decide." "No," I said. "It's for a judge. And I've already filed." Silence. They didn't think I'd push it this far. That night, someone else reached out. Anonymous email. No name, just, "I used to work for them. I have records. Do you want them?"
"Yes."
I responded immediately. An hour later, a file dropped into my inbox. Dozens of scanned letters, fines, citations, all fake. HOA headers, but no signatures. No county file numbers. No backup documentation. Some went back years. One stood out. A special assessment against a family on Lot 12. $7,800 for landscape violations. The woman who lived there? Single mom? Moved out 2 years ago. House still empty. I drove by the next morning. Dead lawn, boards on the windows. No for sale sign. I asked the neighbors. They all said the same thing. She left. The HOA made her life hell. No, I had proof. I uploaded a second wave to the website. With a full breakdown, fraudulent fines and fabricated violations, how the HOA took what didn't belong to them. Expected comments. What I got was a storm. The site crashed twice from traffic. Then the media called. 2 local stations, 1 from Austin. I gave them everything. Then, the twist I didn't see coming, Ellie called. You need to see something. I met her in her garage. Inside was a shoebox taped shut, old letters, meeting minutes, a USB stick. My brother left this, she said. Told me to burn it if anything happened to him. I think he knew this day would come. The USB held something I didn't expect. Audio recordings of board meetings. Private. Off record. One from 5 years ago. If he doesn't pay the fine, we lien the property. Force a sale. That lake access increases our value by 17%. We can't lose it. That was the voice of the former president. They had planned it. Not just trespass, not just scare tactics. They had engineered a system to wear down anyone who challenged them. False fines, fake votes, forged access, and they did it for profit. I sent the audio to my attorney. By morning, it was in the hands of a county investigator, and now the HOA was quiet. No more calls, no more threats, just silence, until the lawsuit hit. My lawyer filed a class action on behalf of 8 residents, soon to be more. Civil damages, injunctive relief, request for a full audit of HOA funds. And this time, I went public. Press conference, right by the lake, same spot where they used to sneak in. News vans lined the road. Neighbors stood behind me, even Ellie was there. And when the mics were in my face, I said it plainly, I bought this land to find peace. Instead, I found a system that abuses power, breaks the law, and hides behind fine print. No more. This is about every person who's been bullied out of their home. This is about truth. We're not backing down. That night, their lawyer emailed again. Different tone now. My clients are open to mediation. I laughed. Because while they were begging to settle, I was setting up something they couldn't control, a forensic audit. One of the neighbors was a CPA, retired, bored, angry. He volunteered, said it would be fun. What he found, gasoline, dozens of undocumented charges, thousands in miscellaneous maintenance that never happened. Payments to a landscaping company, unned by the HOA president's cousin, checks cashed under fake names. It was embezzlement. Criminal charges were filed. 2 weeks later, 3 board members were arrested, but I wasn't done. I rebuilt the dock, not because I needed it, but because I wanted the next chapter to start differently. I invited the entire neighborhood to a barbecue, free food, live music, fishing for kids. Over 60 families showed up. Some of them had ignored me, some had doubted me. But that night, under the string lights, watching Ellie's niece cast a line off the dock her uncle, once used, they came up one by one and thanked me. This place used to feel like a cage, one man said. Now it feels like home again. And then, just as I was packing up, a truck pulled up. Black, clean. Out stepped a man in his 50s. Thin, stern, wore a county badge. Mr. Rayner said, "Mind if I ask you a few questions?" I nodded. "What's this about?" He looked at the lake, then at me. About a piece of land that was supposed to be auctioned 10 years ago? A land dispute that disappeared from the records. And why the HOA may not have been the only ones trespassing. I felt my stomach twist. "What are you saying?" He lowered his voice. "I'm saying, this goes higher than Oak Ridge." Man standing in front of me looked calm, but his eyes were calculating. His name was Deputy Land Commissioner Harris. County level, badge number etched into the silver. "Mr. Rayner," he repeated, quieter this time, "the lot you own, the one with the lake, was marked for government acquisition in 2014? I didn't respond. He went on, "But the paperwork vanished. The auction never happened, and someone covered it up." I looked toward the dock, where families were still laughing and fishing.
"That land's mine,"
I said. "Bought it clean." County office. Confirmed it twice. I know, he said. That's what makes this more complicated. You may have bought it fair and square, but someone made sure it was available when it shouldn't have been, which means someone inside the county made sure it stayed off the books. I felt the heat rise in my chest. So who are you really investigating? I asked. He didn't answer. He just handed me a card. If anyone contacts you about the LeKenny one, call me directly. Then he left. That night I didn't sleep. Instead, I dug into old county records myself. I'd pulled documents before, but now I was looking with different eyes. A plat map from 2014 showed the lake tract marked with a faint red X notation, pending transfer public use, but that entry didn't exist anywhere else. No auction file. No follow-up. Just a single line buried in a scanned form, and then it was gone. Who deleted it? Why? Called my attorney. He said what I already suspected. This wasn't just about an HOA anymore. 2 days later, I got the next hit. A letter, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. A handshake, my old real estate agent, the one who helped me buy the ranch, shaking hands, the man in a county clerk's uniform. Scribbled on the back, ask why this deal went through. I drove straight to his office. He smiled when he saw me. Too wide. Too easy, didn't expect you, he said. You've made some noise lately. I dropped the photo on his desk. His smile faded. You want to explain this? I asked. Silence then. Look, I just facilitated the sale. You got what you wanted, didn't you? I leaned in. What I wanted was to be left alone. What I got was a war. So let's start over. Why did the listing never go to public bid? He stood. I think you should leave. But I didn't. Filing a formal complaint, I said, you knew that property was flagged. You pushed it anyway. And I'm guessing you weren't working alone. He didn't respond, but I saw the fear in his eyes. That night, another anonymous message came through the site, this time with a name, Councilman. Byron J. Kellerman. He sat on the zoning board for nearly a decade. Retired last year, never made headlines. But when I searched the name, something clicked. He'd signed off on 3 land transfers near the Oak Ridge area. All reclaimed county property. All sold for well under market value. All bought by shell companies. And the addresses. One of them was tied directly to my former HOA president. They weren't just trespassing. They were stealing. The HOA was. Just the cover, a smokescreen. The real game was land flipping, buying under fake LLCs, using fines and intimidation to force owners out. Then laundering the ownership through silent hands, and I had walked straight into the middle of it. So I set a trap. I arranged a casual lunch meeting with a local developer, someone who had tried to buy my ranch twice before. I played dumb. Told him I was thinking of selling after all the stress. He bit. Said he could make the paperwork disappear, and I asked who would back the deal. Said a name I hadn't heard before, Clinton Bay Management Group. I recorded everything next. I traced the company. It didn't exist on any public directory, but the P.O. box linked to a law office in Austin. And the managing partner of that firm, Byron J. Kellerman. I brought it all to the county attorney. They opened a grand jury investigation within the week. Now it was everywhere. News broke about the land scam. 3 more officials were indicted. A county clerk resigned. 2 former board members confessed in exchange for lighter charges. But the fallout wasn't just legal, it was personal. That same week, got another visit. Not from officials, from a man in a gray truck. He didn't knock, just sat at the edge of my property and stared. 30 minutes. Didn't move. I walked out, open. Carry visible in. He drove off without a word. No plates, no ID. They were still watching me. I installed more cameras, gave copies of every file to 3 different friends in different states, and I made one final move. I filed for federal protection. Of the land under a conservation easement, it would prevent anyone from ever touching the lake without triggering federal review. No. Oh, no county, no developer. It was locked in forever. I was done fighting, but I wasn't done watching. And just when things started to settle, Ellie called. Again, she was crying. They tried to take my house, she said. Again, even after everything. A man from the bank showed up, said the lien was real. Give me the papers, I said. I'm coming over. But when I saw them, my stomach dropped. They weren't fake. They were old. Real debt. Debt her brother had hidden. He never told her. And now she might lose everything because while I had exposed a system, there were still secrets that even I hadn't. Uncovered, the papers lay on the table like broken promises. Ellie didn't speak, just stared, red-eyed and numb. The house around us felt smaller than it ever had. I picked up the lien notice again, stamped, dated, no fraud. It was real. Her brother Ian had taken out a second mortgage 8 years ago, quietly, without telling her. And it wasn't small. $123,400. The reason, listed simply, land surveying and pre-development expenses. I sat back. He never told you? I asked. She shook her head. I helped him pay off his truck. I helped fix this place. But that. He never said a word. Did he leave a will? No, just that box you already saw. That's all I've got. She stood suddenly, walked to the hallway and pulled down. The attic ladder. There's one more place he used to keep stuff, she muttered. He called it the vault. Said if anything ever went sideways, that's where the answers would be. We climbed up dust, insulation, silenced. Then tucked behind a beam, a locked military ammo box. I pried it open. Inside, a leather-bound notebook, flash drive, and a yellowed envelope marked in his handwriting. If I'm gone. Read this first. He opened it together. Inside wasn't a letter. It was a blueprint, not of the house, of the entire HOA area. With red ink circling 7 properties, including Ellie's mine and the now-abandoned lot across from the lake. And written across the top, they'll come for these first, because they don't legally own the land under them. I didn't understand, but then I flipped the map over. Scrawled notes. Original county lines shifted in '96. Some parcels overlap federal survey zones. They never refiled. They never corrected it. If this gets out, they all fall. It hit me like a freight train, Ryan knew. He didn't just suspect corruption, he had proof the entire development was built on unstable legal ground. That land, all of it, had overlapping jurisdiction, county and federal, a ticking time bomb, and now because he never spoke up. Ellie was on the hook for the debt he died carrying. I plugged in the flash drive. Inside were scanned emails. Lots of them. From 2015 to 2018, most between Ryan and someone listed only as SC. Subject lines, still waiting on survey. Overlays, meeting with Byron, delayed again. Do not trust the title company. In one dated October 12, 2016, Ellie doesn't know. I'm keeping her out of this. But they're closing in on the dock. I think they know. I copied the deeds. If anything happens to me, make sure the originals get to someone who can't be bought. Rayner is a good guy. He doesn't even know what he walked into yet. My throat tightened. Ryan had picked me. Even before I met Ellie, he'd been watching, preparing, trusting me with something I didn't even know existed. Ellie read the message again. He trusted you more than me, she whispered. No, I said. He protected you, and now we protect him. The next day I called my lawyer, gave him the flash drive, the blueprint. The notes. His response was instant. This changes everything. This is a federal jurisdiction error. If the county covered it up, it opens them to massive liability. But we need to be careful. This puts you in more danger. I laughed bitterly. More. That week, 2 things happened. First, a federal land investigator from the Department of the Interior called me directly. They had received an anonymous tip, likely from my attorney. He asked for a meeting. I agreed. Second, a man showed up at Ellie's job. Clean suit, silver car. Was asked to speak to her about Ryan's outstanding accounts. When she asked for a card, he refused. When she tried to take a photo of him, he smiled and walked off. The message was clear. Back off. Instead, we pushed harder. We pulled every deed, every land transfer, every property assessment back to 1994. 1. Address kept coming up. 118 Lowell Street, a commercial office. Closed in 2002, but the records showed it had been used as a mail forwarding address for over 30 property. Titles all tied back to our HOA. We drove out. The building was boarded up. Graffiti everywhere, but inside, after sneaking through the back door, we found a rusted file cabinet. Inside, folders stamped, marked, original survey. Data 1 folder in particular chilled me. Lake Acquisition Strategy Phase 1. A typed memo from 2001 said this: Target tracks AG fall under overlapping federal overlay zones. Until resolved, property can be assumed via quiet claim deeds and HOA enforcement powers. Recommend use of inflated fines and title dispute to force foreclosure if needed. Get. Keep operations informal. Signed only S. C. It wasn't just theft. It was strategized land. Laundering disguised as neighborhood governance. When we brought the file to the federal investigator, he didn't blink. He'd seen it before. This is part of a pattern. He said, "We've been tracking variations of this play in 5 states, but this one might finally crack it open." Then he said something that shook me. "If you go public with this, we'll back you. But make no mistake, these people, they don't go quietly. They have friends in high places." I asked, "What would you do?" He looked me dead in the eye. "I'd prepare for a fight. I'd make sure someone was always watching." "You're back." So that's what I did. We moved Ellie into my place, put cameras on her work, her car, even her dog's collar. I met with a local journalist, one I knew wouldn't fold under pressure. Gave her everything, the files, flash drive, the cabinet photos, and as she was leaving, she said, "Do you want to stay anonymous?" I shook my head. I want them to know exactly who's coming for them, because it was never just about trespassing anymore. It was about ownership of land, of truth, of legacy. Ryan tried to stop them. Now it was my turn. It began with a knock. Not on my front door, but through my phone. 6:03 a.m., unknown number. I hesitated. Answered a man's voice, low and deliberate. "Mr. Rayner, you've stirred a nest you don't fully understand. Back off. Final warning." Clit. I called the number back disconnected. I'd known the threats would come. I just didn't think they'd start before sunrise. I was already dressed. I wasn't sleeping much these days. Neither was Ellie. We were living like fugitives in our own home locks. Cameras, loaded sidearms by every entry point. Still, she refused to leave. "I'm done running," she'd said. "They came for my family. Now I come for theirs." The next move had to count. No more whispers. No more hidden files. We needed to drag them into the daylight. So I called the journalist Nomi Blake by noon. She was sitting on my porch with a film crew and a printed copy of every document we'd given her. We recorded the full interview, names, dates, titles, photos, even the man in the silver car. She had receipts. But she also had fear in her eyes. This kind of corruption. "You realize how deep it goes?" "I do now," I said. Then I gave her one last file, one I hadn't shared yet. A backup drive, GPS logs, date-stamped videos of board members accessing locked properties after hours. I'd installed a trail cam behind the lake dock weeks ago. It had caught everything. Trespass wasn't the full story. They were planting markers, survey flags, paint lines, getting ready to move. They thought I'd give up. Now the whole world would see. The interview aired the next night, prime time. Local news, live streamed on 3 platforms by morning. Story had gone viral. Homeowner exposes HOA land scam tied to county officials. Developer ring. #Lakehore trended for 14 hours. Subreddits exploded. Former residents from other states started chiming in. "They did this to my dad. We lost our ranch the same way." HOAs are modern cartels. Just like that, the silent war turned into a public one. 3 major things happened in the following 48 hours. The state attorney general opened an independent investigation. 2 HOA board members fled the state. A sealed warrant was issued for someone named Stephen Collister, a.k.a. We finally had a name. He wasn't just a lawyer. He was the architect. The same SC from Ryan's emails. The same signature from the 2001 Lake Acquisition Strategy. He'd created the shell companies, filed the phony deeds, buried the federal zoning conflicts under layers of bad surveys and handshake deals. But that wasn't the worst part. When I saw his face on the leaked court documents, my blood froze because I'd seen him before. He was the man in the silver car, the one who watched Ellie's job from across the street. He wasn't just hiding in the shadows. He was taunting us. I called the investigator from Interior. He picked up immediately. "We've got eyes on him," he said. "Don't engage. He knows he's cornered, but he's still out there now." That night, I went through Ryan's flash drive again. I was looking for anything we missed: coordinates, signatures, receipts. That's when I found it. A voice memo dated just weeks before. Ryan's death? I think they know I'm recording them. They've stopped using phones. Started meeting at the old stables outside Ridgeback. I can't go there alone. But if anything happens to me, that's where it started. And that's where it'll end. Ridgeback. Told Ellie. She looked at me with a kind of quiet fury. We go together. We geared up and drove out nightfall. No headlights the last mile. The stables were abandoned. Collapsing roof, dirt floor, but in the far stall, behind rotted plywood, we found what Ryan was talking about. A metal LOCKBOX dot inside. Copies of 6 checks made out to Keller Ridge Trust. A map of the HOA area with price estimates. Per parcel, a typed memo, Phase 3, initiate once final 3 homes cleared. They weren't just targeting land, they were pricing people out slowly, methodically raising dues, slapping fines, inventing violations until homeowners couldn't keep up, then swooping in with lowball offers to help. A quiet coup wrapped in newsletters and landscaping notices. We turned everything over to Naomi again. This time, national news picked it up. CNN, Fox, Independent. Watchdogs. The fallout was immediate. Arrests, hearings, freezes on development projects across 3 counties. The governor issued a press release about restoring faith in community governance, but it came at a cost. That night, someone slashed the tires on my truck, 3 tires. 4. A message. "We know where you are," Ellie cried for the first time. In days, not from fear, from exhaustion. "We're not even safe now. After all this," I took her hand. "We're not running. Not this time. They wanted a war. Now they've got one." So I went public again. National interview live. Named names, showed faces, told the world what they did to Ryan, to Ellie, to my land. To every homeowner who ever got that envelope and felt powerless. And at the end of that broadcast, I said this: if you're watching this and you've ever felt bullied by the people supposed to protect your neighborhood, document everything. Don't assume you're wrong. Don't back down, because these people count on fear. We just showed them what happens when fear fights back. The fallout is still unfolding, but we're not hiding anymore. And just when we thought the storm had passed, Ellie got another call. Block number. This time, a woman's voice. "You don't know the full story?" she said. "Ryan didn't die the way they said he did."